everyone, and welcome to another episode of Taco Matta Tuesday, the show where we eat healthy, delicious tacos and have conversations about life. Give yourself permission to live a big life. Stop playing small and step into who it is that you were meant to be. You were meant for greater things, and I hope that you believe that. But why is it so hard to believe in that? Why is it so hard to live that truth? I don't know about you guys, but self-sabotage is a real thing. And that's what we're going to talk about today, is why we self-sabotage, but also how can we start to put those negative tendencies that are no longer serving our life to rest for once and for all. So we're going to talk about that, but first, let's go ahead and talk about the taco of the week. This taco of the week was inspired by my BFF and the lovely chili making fiesta that we had this weekend. Guys, chili is the best, and I know that we're starting to hit like March, April timeframe, so spring. Crock-pot meals may start to, take a dwindle. They might start to go down just a little bit as far as frequency goes. But if there's anything that you can do, it's to at least try this recipe before you put the crock pot away. And that is my famous healthy, delicious taco soup. No, it is not a taco, but it's basically all the ingredients of a taco in a soup. And you can put like guacamole and sour cream and your favorite sort of healthy, delicious cheese, all the things, right? So just eat it. And if that sounds delicious, please go check out the show notes before you leave the episode today to grab the recipe card. Okay. Here we go. So, also what inspired the podcast of this week was during our chili fiesta / guacamole making BFF date. I was just sitting down with Megan and we were having conversations about life. And I brought up my recent awareness of how I am sabotaging myself in my current romantic relationship. And I have really struggled to kick these bad habits and the tendencies that I fall into. And it was a really awesome conversation. And I knew when I got out of it, I was like, great, that's going to be the podcast topic for tomorrow. But I left that conversation with so much to think about and just sleep on. And so what I want to talk about today is why we self-sabotage, like the reasons why we are coming to falling into these bad habits, but also a question or a prompt or something to help you get out of doing that, to think differently. So I have eight different things to talk to you about today. So we'll see how long this podcast goes, but it'll be a good one. I have no doubt. Okay. So with that being said, the first one is that experiences have shaped you to your detriment. I know that experiences, they feel like they could be absolutely everything. Like truly. They feel like, especially if you're a big believer in the nurture versus nature, experiences could quite literally mold and shape you into who you are today. I truly do believe that. However, I think that there has to be a good balance of that. And I think that it really can come to the detriment if you do not have the correct awareness and reflection skills available to you at that point in time to be able to sort of delineate what's true versus what's not true and what to take with you versus what it is that you need to leave behind. And so one of the examples that I actually wanted to give was I was listening to a podcast, Ed Milet. He's wonderful. If you haven't read his book of The Power of One More, I highly recommend it. It's been one on my bookshelf for quite some time. I've read through the whole thing, and he actually talks about self-sabotage in one of his chapters. So highly recommend it if you haven't picked it up yet. But he talked about this idea of the thermostat. And for example, like outside, it is, let's say it's 100 degrees outside. But on the inside, you have the air conditioning on, and it's only 70 degrees. Well, the outside is not going to impact the inside, right? Because they're two completely different atmospheres. So the idea that we are allowing for all of that 100-degree weather, all of that crap and mud and gunk that should not impact us, the fact that we're allowing for it to impact our internal thermostat is a way that we are selling ourselves short, right? So we almost have to think of it as two completely different things. Of that, yes, there is going to be things that are going to shake us from the outside. But at the end of the day, they don't have to dictate how we think, how we act, how we behave moving forward. They may influence it, but they cannot take away our choice. Our choice to make a pivot, to shift, to think differently. So the question that I want to ask you is, what are some defining moments that have happened to you in your life? And are you staying stuck there? I think another great thing to think about it too, right, is experiences are wonderful in the fact that like what you go through allows for you to become stronger, especially if you look at it from that lens and you learn the lessons that the universe is trying to freaking teach you. But then if you're constantly living in the, oh, well, I remember when this happened and therefore it's likely to happen again, or this is the only thing that I really deserve are these kind of experiences, like that could truly derail you and hold you back from what it is that you're capable of. So have you been stuck in telling yourself a specific story based off of some specific experiences that are keeping you stuck? And how can you start to tell yourself a different story from those experiences to get you to move forward? Stop looking at your past as if it is gold. Right? Again, like I said, there's some incredible things that have happened in your past that really have allowed for you to shape a mindset. But remember, that is a choice. So take your choice and make it powerful by not allowing yourself to be stuck in these crappy past experiences and allowing for yourself to look forward and to pivot and to keep taking steps one foot in front of the other. The second thing is your identity is suffering. And this is a big one. How do you view yourself? If you were to be asked, hey, tell me a little bit about yourself, like put yourself in Kayla's shoes, like the last year, you're on a date with someone. When you were asked to tell yourself or tell, this lovely individual on the other side of the coffee table, tell me about yourself, what is it that you would answer? And be honest about that. And also, is it a struggle for you to answer that question? Do you find yourself mostly going to, well, this is my job. This is kind of how I do things. I got a cat. I don't have a cat, but I have a dog. Like, is it just like, oh, these are just little facts? Or are you able to talk about meaningful experiences and who you really are and what's important to you and your values? Do you really know yourself? Right? That is the first thing that I would take a look at. The next thing I would talk about is, or I'd ask yourself is, what are you most proud of yourself for? What are those defining things that you've done, that you've pulled yourself through, that you are super proud of? On the flip side, I'd also ask yourself, is there something that you're truly regretting not doing, either because of fear or something took you away from doing such thing, that's impacting how you view yourself? The answers to those questions can give you so much clarity and allow for you to better understand, how do I view myself? And better yet, how am I probably talking to myself as a byproduct in between my own two ears? If your identity is suffering, it is not a shock that you're self-sabotaging yourself, because you do not see yourself in a positive light. You do not see yourself in a worthy light. And that is the next thing that I want to talk about, because they're so closely related, is your internal thermostat is set super freaking low. You do not see yourself as worthy, and you struggle to raise this measure in order to attract and let in the things that are 100% meant to be for your life, that you are deserving of. So the thing that I want to talk about when it comes to your overall internal thermostat and your worthiness is self-worth. It's hard. I think that this is one where external influences really, really bog down our overall worthiness. But what I want to shift the attention to, and what I want to ask you in order to sort of get your steps in motion towards building your self-worth and your internal thermostat back up, is what promises do you regularly keep to yourself? These can be things from making your bed in the morning, to what you put inside your body, to how you move your body, to certain appointments for yourself, like for self-care. It could be anything, but what are those promises that you keep to yourself? And if you don't have any promises, if you can't name off at least a couple, my guess is that you probably don't have any. And that is a reason why you're struggling to trust and believe in yourself. And when you don't have those two things, again, it's really hard to see yourself as worthy and deserving of all these big, beautiful, amazing things that are coming into your life that you don't even get a chance to enjoy because you're so busy sitting there in self-doubt. I'd also say too, like, what are the ways that you're challenging yourself? What are the ways that you're building your self-efficacy? Your ability to be like, I can do that. And sometimes you have to throw yourself in the deep end. Sometimes you have to get uncomfortable. In fact, all the time you got to get uncomfortable, right? The more that you can do that and keep the promise to yourself of no matter what happens, I'm just going to keep putting one foot in front of the other, the more you put a little token into that self-confidence jar. And that jar means freaking everything. So I hope that gives you a couple of questions to go back and think about how do you think about yourself? How do you talk to yourself as a byproduct? But then also, do you see yourself as worthy? And if you don't, what are small things that you can put into your weekly, daily routine that will allow for you to keep your promises to yourself, to build that trust and belief in yourself, and overall be able to see yourself as someone that's deserving and worthy of all that's coming for you and all that's meant for you? The fourth thing, and this one is so true, and it's like such a gut check, is the tendency to seek the familiar. I was talking to Megan about this, but the last, let's say 5 to 10 years of my life, actually, I'll even go back. I shared this story about when I was talking about, I think it was the podcast where I was talking about what I would tell my younger self, is I shared vulnerably about the stories of when I was younger and just always being left out, always feeling like I was being attacked, never enough for people. Like it was tough, and a lot of how I've treated myself and the identity that I've built and the worthiness lens that I've really seen myself through, or the lack thereof that I've seen myself through, has been so low and so trashed because of these experiences that happened to me when I was younger, and not really, again, having the ability to separate myself from what was going on externally versus how I viewed myself internally, and knowing that I was more than enough and that this was just a phase, this was just a season, and that these were not my people. So anyways, all that to say that sort of has shaped how I've acted going through my college years, going through my early corporate career years, even up until now, especially in the dating and relationship sense. And one thing that I told her is that I'm almost addicted to seeking out pain because that is the only thing that I know. And it sucks that my brain is constantly seeking out the worst case scenario, or the reasons why I don't deserve love, or the reasons why this person's going to walk away and leave, because that's the only thing I've ever known. And so I want you to think about that. Have there been times in your life where maybe you've caught some success, or maybe, again, you found an incredible partner, an incredible relationship to your life, whatever that may be, where you're like, wow, this actually feels good. And then out of nowhere, like clockwork, you start to feel uncomfortable. You start to get imposter syndrome. You start to not see yourself of worthy of what's coming for you. And now all of a sudden you start to go back to where you started via self-sabotaging, right? Then you probably have the same tendency that I have to seek out the familiar. So in order to change this, you have to continue to lock into that identity that you want to create for yourself and what you feel that you are worthy of having. So it's really going back to steps 2 and 3 and zoning in, dialing in on those things and improving those daily, again, with just those small tasks. Okay. And also being able to have the awareness of you seeking out the familiar. Like, one thing that I told her I was really proud of is the fact that I'm seeing it. Like, yes, I'm frustrated that it's happening, but I'm able to call myself out. And in the moment, I'm able to think about it and then act upon it in the way that I want to act upon it. It doesn't always happen. And in fact, my boyfriend is like, why would you think this and that? And I'm like, self-sabotage, right? And he knows that I'm still working through things. But give yourself some time to work through that, right? And give yourself a second when these uncomfortable moments come up of when you want to revert back to what feels comfy, to just sit in it and think about it before you act and allow for yourself to totally process it. And that allows for me to perfectly sort of scoot into the next one, which is the tendency to be in control. I think we all have this need to be in control, just like we have the need to seek out the familiar. We continue to self-sabotage over and over and over again because it gives us the opportunity to seek out the familiar, to be in that spot that we know what to predict, what the outcome will be, even if it's not right for us. So what we have to do is we have to start to relinquish that control. We have to relinquish always knowing what's going to happen and instead act within vulnerability, act within courage that no matter what happens on the other side, that you are going to be capable and strong enough to get through whatever it is that might present itself. So question for you is, how can you let go of control? What are you gripping the bat so tightly on that is not allowing for you to just be present, to navigate the situation as need be, and just allow for you to put your next best step forward whenever that situation presents itself? How can you immerse yourself in more unpredictable and uncomfortable situations? I think that being able to do that allows for you to sort of build this mindset that allows for you to just be like, hey, again, I don't know what's going to happen, but I know I fully trust myself to take the next best step when I get there. And it just allows for you to build so much strength, so much durability, perseverance, tenacity in your mindset, that even though it feels uncomfortable, that your body's freaking out because it's just trying to protect you, that you're able to overcome that and step into your truth and step into your power. So what are the things that you really need to let go of control of? This is really the main question here. The next thing is you are self-sabotaging continually and on end because you are stuck in the comparison game. And this is another big one, I think, for a lot of people. And I obviously want to point importance towards comparison towards other people in your life, people on social media, just people in the externals. But I also just importantly, and if not more importantly, want to point the focus on you comparing yourself to a different season of life. Because there's no season of life that's the same. We're always growing and adapting and evolving, and things are always changing. And so maybe you're upset with yourself because you're no longer performing or doing the things that you once did. And so I want to ask you this, is what is your version of success in this season of life, right? That will help you hopefully take the externals out of it by pulling it back internally and saying, what is success for me? But also, what is success for me in this season of life? It doesn't matter if your seasons of life go month by month, if for God's sakes, even week by week. I get that some of us are going through some things, and it's really easy to get frustrated and wonder, when is it ever going to let up? When am I going to finally see the success that I know that I have been capable of, but I've never been able to touch it or taste it? You've got to, again, come back internally and just be able to say, right now, from where I'm at, this is what success looks like for me. And it doesn't mean that I'm less than. It doesn't mean that I'm giving up. It doesn't mean that I'm staying complacent. It means that I have my back. I know what it is that I need right now, and this is it. Even if that doesn't, stack up to the measures of what other people are doing or what I could do in a previous season. So stop self-sabotaging yourself by being stuck in a previous season of life and what you're capable of doing then, in addition to what you see other people doing now and their highlight reels, because I guarantee you a lot of it isn't real. And not that that really matters, but be proud of the present and what it is that you are doing every single day to learn, to grow, and to be a better you. The next thing, the seventh thing, we're almost at the bottom here, Your circle is suffocating you, and that is why you are self-sabotaging yourself. Real life question. Are you proud of the people that you spend the most time with? Like, if you were to introduce the people you spend the most time with to someone else that is really important, would you be proud of them? Or even better yet, do you find yourself being proud of your friends, your family, the people, again, that are in your circle? You're like, wow, it is so cool that they did that. I am so proud of them. Do you find yourself saying that a lot? I would also ask is, when is the last time you had a genuine heart-to-heart just about life with them? If these two things were really hard to answer and you weren't really excited with the answer, it probably means that you were not a part of the right circle. And if your circle is not a representation of who you want to be and where you want to go, it is easily holding you back. And again, I know that we talked about at the beginning as experiences, they don't have to dictate and shape who you are. Well, still, those people around you, if they're modeling things that are not true, that do not serve you, I'm sorry, let's just work on setting ourselves up for success. We can work as hard as we can internally and mentally to try and deflect that, but like, why should we have to do that on a constant basis? Why not have people that we are proud of in our life, that we can talk genuinely about life with, that are going to set us up for success and allow for us to seek out new levels that we never thought were possible? So maybe this is an opportunity to gut check yourself again and make sure that you are surrounding yourself with the best people. And I understand you can't kick people out of your life. I'm not asking you to kick people out of your life, but this is, again, it goes back to choice. If you can't kick certain people out of your circle because they're, they're family and they kind of can't go anywhere, at least for the immediate moment, just remember that you have the choice to turn the dial down or the dial up on what it is that they're saying, what it is that they are doing, letting one thing go into one ear and out the other ear. You have that choice. Don't give that power away. The last thing, the reason why you might be continually self-sabotaging yourself is you've lost your voice. Speak up, please, and communicate your needs. And this was sort of where the conversation ended last night with Megan, is the consequences that are coming for me in terms of resenting myself and my partner. If I think that I am too much, if I think that I am not deserving and not enough, and I never speak up about things that are impacting me and what it is that I need, if I don't do that, I'm going to build resentment in the relationship. I'm going to build resentment towards myself. And overall, it is never going to work. And it could be the best thing for me ever. So by not speaking up, I'm only doing myself harm. And I know that that's scary, right? For those of you that can relate, it is scary to be like, I'm going to step into my power and be vulnerable, even though I feel like I might be asking for too much. And I worry that that person is going to be scared and run away. Well, if they run away, they're probably not the right person for you anyways. And who would want to end up with people in their life 10, 15, 20 years down the road because they never spoke up? And now they're in a living hell because their partner thought that they were one thing and they are totally not, because they never stood up for themselves. They never communicated their needs. So it means, in order to do this, that you're going to have to get quiet enough to listen and reflect. And because you've spent the time adding things into your routine that allow for you to build up that self-confidence, that trust, that belief in yourself, the overall worthiness that you are enough and that you are a freaking capable, badass individual with such a strong identity, the ability to stand up for yourself and to communicate those things, hopefully over time, are going to get easier. And this is where I want to leave you, is, yes, we just talked about so much good stuff. And trust me, on a day-to-day basis, I'm working through all of this. But I just want to remind you that the negative thoughts never stop. As much as we work on these things, It does not mean that the negative the negative thoughts are ever going to stop. But what it does mean is that we have the skills and the ability to pivot, to turn our face away from what is not serving us and instead choose to walk in a different direction. So know that you are not wrong by continually facing these things head up, that you are in fact getting stronger and stronger and learning the lesson to take with you for the next time that you face the same exact situation. You are exactly where it is that you are supposed to be, and you are not any less than for the things that you are going head up against right now in life. Give yourself that permission right now that you are capable and deserving of living a huge life. You are no longer going to play small. You're going to step into who it is that you were meant to be through all of the courage that you're building on a day-to-day basis. And please, please, please remember that you are meant for greater things, and trust in that. Thank you guys so much for showing up for you today. I hope that this episode truly impacted you. And if it did, please be sure to share this with someone that needs to hear this message. And if you haven't already, rate and review the podcast. Until next time, you guys, go enjoy the taco soup of the week before the weather gets too hot. And I will see you guys next week for another episode of Taco About It Tuesday. See you then.